Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock, so it must be ICB TV. Good to have you with us once again. Can you believe it's already the 12th of May? So here we are, Tuesday the 12th of May, and a bit of a cobbled-together program at the moment because what we were going to do has been shelved because, lo and behold, our friend Rushy, the Chancellor, has been out once again doling out the money. And I'm very pleased to say that the lady in the know, as always, is Jacquie Mann. She's here today. Hi, Jacquie.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, few announcements today, a few updates I've got, so I thought I'd just come on and just, while it's hot off the press from Parliament TV.
I mean, bearing in mind the announcements about when we're going to be not required to lock down and when we can see people for the first time and when pubs and clubs are going to be open, the fact that furloughing now is going to be stretched as far as the end of October does make it a much bigger gap than we thought. That's great for those people who need this to keep the retention of their staff, which is what this was all about. Few little hints dropped in there that we're not, you and I were just discussing, we're not really quite sure how to take them, but do you want to run through what's come out today? So
yes. Before we get into the Chancellor's announcements, there's a few updates. I've just been on a Sage webinar this morning with Louise Tarpey from HMRC, who's been heavily involved in the setting up of the furlough scheme and the reclaim, and she's the lady to know about that. And there are some changes coming to that, which will answer a lot of questions that we've had recently. Firstly, if you haven't picked it up, and there was an email came out from Jim Harrer, if you're linked into those HMRC emails, you will have seen this. Came out, I think, a day or so ago. There's been a lot of complaints that there's a 15-minute timeout when you're making a claim that you must get the claim done in 50 minutes. Well, that is now come to an end because they now have a save button. So you can actually save your claim halfway through and return to it to finish it at a later date. So that's a huge step forward, and they're gradually adding more and more details and refinements to the system. As we know, when it started, it was quite basic and it did what it was intended to do, but they're now adding lots of bits to it. They're also going to start changing the details that come in on some of the screens. There have been some feedback that some of the questions are a little bit ambiguous and people are putting the wrong information in and are not getting their claims through, or it's not being done correctly. So they've been taking feedback and they're improving the data input screens. Some of the wording on there is being changed. Fairly soon, you will be able to log in and see the claims that you've actually made. You can't do that at the moment. It's a very high level. It's only going to be the date and the amount that you've claimed, but you've got the detail in your record, so that's coming in. And what they're also bringing in is an amendment and corrections process, so that if you have actually made an error, then you should be able to go back and make an amendment to it and correct it. So if you think you've overclaimed or you've underclaimed, you may be able to go back at some stage and amend your claims, which will solve quite a lot of problems for people that I've spoken to recently who have perhaps not claimed as much as they should, or who have overclaimed. At the moment, if you want to do that, you need to ring the COVID-19 helpline. There is a difference, as most of you know. I don't know what's happening with QuickBooks, but I do know that with Sage and Xero, there have been some queries coming up about the amount that the software is calculating that you can claim is slightly different to what the HMRC calculator is giving you. Now, providing that your claim amounts are minuscule and they're not that much, it's to do with the way the software calculates an annual salary and divides it into 12 equal instalments. So that's where the £2,500 maximum comes in. What HMRC do, if you know, is they calculate the daily rate of the maximum you can claim. So May would have been 31 days, June is 30 days. So you can actually claim less per day for May than you can for June. And your figures on that don't necessarily come out to a round figure. The difference is not significant and you can use either and there's not going to be a problem. And I've also had a confirmation that if you are slightly out in your calculations, HMRC are not going to be interested in small amounts that you may have incorrectly claimed. The only time they're really going to come back and start to get a little bit heavy is if you've obviously claimed for the wrong amounts. And there have been quite a lot of, there's a bit of publicity going around at the moment about the incorrect national insurance claims. And I think that's to do with the employment allowance, which we've spoken about on a number of occasions. But as soon as I've got some more information on that, I will let you know. There was something came out about browsers. If you're having problems getting onto the claim, or your clients have, it may be that their browser is too old to support the system. So we'll need to make sure they use a fairly up-to-date browser. I can't remember, there is a level at which behind which they can't cope with. Just a note out from Sage this morning, if you're using Sage 50 Payroll, they're making amendments to their software rapidly to allow for top-up pays. If you're using Sage 50, you'll probably know what that's all about. Okay, so I think that's everything on there. Email out from Companies House this morning about late filing penalties and strike-offs. Now, we've mentioned before that if you are going to be late filing your annual accounts, you must apply before. You will get an automatic 3-month extension, but if you don't apply for the extension and you're late filing, you will get a penalty. But they are going to be lenient with those penalties, and they are going to give you time to claim. That came out from the Companies House website this morning. And the other one from them was that if your clients are going through a voluntary strike-off, they are no longer going to complete that process, but they'll review it on the 1st of June to allow more time for companies to maybe pay creditors and things like that. So that's came out from Companies House this morning.
Can I just interrupt you there? I mean, it was
Yeah.
Audrey Barnum just on saying that she can't hear anything. Is it just her? I haven't heard anybody else say this. Sobi, if you're there in the background, can you see if you can send another invite out to Audrey? Perhaps there's a blip somewhere, but nobody else has said that. So I'm sorry, Audrey. It would appear to be just you. But anyway, don't worry. You won't have missed it. It's all available later, and you can join in there. But hopefully that will have sorted itself out by now. Thank you. Sorry, Jack.
That's okay, no problem. Yeah, I've just seen actually, yeah, a couple of catch-up quick questions here from Hi Faye. I have a client who lives in England and is in construction as a sole director, as an electrician. He's near retirement, doesn't have any work lined up yet. If he doesn't feel ready to return to work because of his health or age, can he stay on furlough? Well, I suppose officially he can, because if he doesn't feel safe to go back to work or he hasn't got any work, the furlough scheme is still running. And there will be businesses that are going to cease trading at the end of this because they can't get the work back. So we really don't know what's going to happen about that yet. But I think officially, yeah, there's nothing to stop him staying on furlough. He doesn't know what his business is going to be at the end. And hi, I may have missed it on previous updates. This is Angela. Hi, Angela. Did we resolve what to do about under 16-year-olds with no NI numbers on the furlough claim? If you're HMRC have introduced a Find My NI number for people, but of course, if you're under 16, you haven't got one yet, so that doesn't apply. I have not had an answer back from HMRC on this. And the current advice is if you do not have an NI number and you've got less than 100 employees, so you're having to put it in manually, you will have to ring HMRC, the COVID-19 helpline, to do that. Now, I spoke to someone earlier in the week who said they have been waiting for at least 2 weeks for a callback. I have raised that with HMRC of the delays in the callback, and as far as my HMRC's contact is concerned, he's not aware that there is a delay, but I told him there was. So keep ringing is their suggestion on that one. And
Sue Bruland says, I can hear you. So
you didn't miss much, Susan. You didn't miss much. Oh, my thank you, Peter.
Lepage, yes. Jackie, you're in the same pattern as the flag of South Africa. Welcome. Yeah. Oh, well done.
Yeah, it was weekend's work. Weekend's work, the earrings and the necklace. Right. Okay. Do we have?
Have you seen the one from Pauline here? I've had a client contact me. They have worked for 1 day, and I wonder if they can furlough off for 1 day and then go back on to furlough. I can't find anywhere in the minimum period to furlough off, just to furlough on minimum period.
You can, but then you've got to be back on for a minimum of 3 weeks. You can furlough or not furlough for as long as you like, but you have to have a minimum of 3 weeks. So if the problem is that 1 day back at work, as it stands at the moment, till the end of July, counts as a break in your furlough. So you then start the 3-week period again. However, I have had confirmation from HMRC. We've had a lot of queries going around about the claim periods, and if you're furloughing within a claim period for less than 3 weeks, can you apply for the furlough grant? And the answer to that is yes, you can, as long as the furlough then goes on for a minimum of 3 weeks. Right back in week 1 of this, we had a query from a member whose client has a contract with the Ministry of Defence, and they were furloughed for 2 weeks and then called back for a week's work. And we have had confirmation very recently that if that happens, you cannot claim for the 2 weeks. So if you are also furloughing someone on a rolling basis, so you're bringing them in for, say, furloughing them for 3 weeks, bringing them back for the 4th week, and then furloughing them again on a rolling basis, when we get to the end of the furlough period, if they are not furloughed for a minimum of 3 weeks, you will not be able to claim. So you do have to watch what happens when we get near to the end of the process to make sure that if you want to claim it back, you have got that 3 weeks minimum whenever that appears in the scheme.
We had a member this morning who was on one of the forums saying that he's employed by, I think, an Italian company, and he is in this country, he's paid in this country, he's in this country, but the bank account's in Italy, so he can't be furloughed.
I think those are the sort of things that fall outside the system, because it's the similar way to the monthly paid who started contract on the 1st of March. Excuse me. Started on the 1st of March, and because they hadn't had an RTI claim posted before the 19th of March, they can't claim. Now, interestingly enough, I was watching the Chancellor's announcement on the Parliament channel, and one of the MPs in the question time actually asked that question about those who started, and he basically said, no, the line is there, we're not going to budge any further, and there will be people, as he's always said, that fall outside this. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but there it is. Okay, do we want to move on to what the Chancellor's announcement was today?
Yeah, probably. I think that's probably the best thing to do.
Okay, Chancellor has announced today then that the scheme will be extended to the end of October. There are no changes to the end of July, so we carry on as we are till the end of July. And then from August to October, he's making the scheme more flexible so that it covers part-time working. Now, I think this is to allow for a gradual return to work, because those of you who listened to the Prime Minister's announcement on Sunday, certainly within my immediate group, a lot of whom are teachers, are a little bit concerned about the way the schools are going back. So if you happen to have someone in primary who's going back to school, and maybe children in years 2 to 5 who are not going back to school yet, because it's reception 1 and year 6, you've got a problem with going back to work if you've still got childcare. They're also talking about allowing nurseries to open up again over a period of time fairly soon. I think they're looking at that from the 1st of June. Yeah. So this introduction to part-time work is going to help. Now, what it will mean is that you can bring your employees back part-time. So this minimum of 3 weeks solid and all or nothing is going to stop from the end of July. So after that, you could bring your staff back on a part-time basis. So what that allows you to do is to have either to stagger your workforce, or to have people in on certain days, or do mornings and some do afternoons, to allow for the social distancing rules in offices. It's one possibility. staggered, excuse me, staggered transport time. And as the work increases for businesses, I think the idea is that the amount of time you spend working increases, and therefore the amount of time you're furloughed will decrease. So what will happen is that at the moment, the same calculations will apply that the furlough grant will cover 80% of the furloughed time. So if you bring your staff back for 2.5 days a week, you'll pay them for 2.5 days a week. You'll furlough them for 2.5 days a week on 80% of their normal salary and claim that back from the government. However, there was, as always, although the Chancellor did say he was maintaining the 80%, he did sneak in a little wording that says he is expecting employers to start to contribute towards the government funding. I've actually spoken to the contact at HMRC who heard the announcement at the same time as I did. So she's not sure what she's doing with her programming at HMRC yet. But I think there are two possibilities. One is that the employer contribution will be the salary of the part they're working, and you'll claim for the 80% of the furlough time. The other thing that he might do, and this is coming out in the detail before the end of May, is that he may very well start to reduce the 80% furlough so that the employer starts to pick up part of that furlough pay. I don't know, it's a guess, complete and utter guess, so please don't quote me on it. It's just raised a question as to what he's actually going to mean, but we're not going to know what's going to happen there for a while yet. So that was his announcement. So yeah, it's going to be a fun couple of months.
Yeah, it is, isn't it, really? But then again, the last few months have been a fun couple of months as well, haven't they?
Yeah, and I think we'll be able to adapt this because we're aware of how to calculate the percentages now. I'm not going to go into what's happening with early years nurseries on that one. And we're aware of how to calculate the funding. We're aware of how to claim it. I think it's just going to be a change in the way in the calculation.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll have to see where it comes up. I mean, the thing that I'm finding at the moment, the members that I'm speaking to, they are absolutely rushed off their feet at the moment with what they're doing so far. And when this comes about, if you've got people on for a couple of days, off for a couple of days, and all this sort of stuff, the amount of work is just going to grow exponentially. And I think a lot of our members have a lot of people involved in the catering industry and in the, sort of pubs, cafes, etc. That's going to be one of the most complicated. So I think they're going to have to be very careful that they get it right, that the person is given furlough when they're actually furloughed, not when they're working, and all this sort of stuff. I think a lot of this is going to fall on the shoulders of the bookkeepers. Obviously, as we know, our bookkeepers have got very broad shoulders and they've done this all before. But I think it's going to be interesting times because Paula Vesey-Smith, as our chairman of the advisory council, was going to have a session. She was going to take over on Thursday, give me a day off. And she was going to bring together the council members so that everybody could ask the council, which we all thought was a great idea. And I'm just watching the emails coming in at the moment. Hi, Paula, I need to duck out. I've got so much work. I can't spare the time. So I'm not sure how many people are going to do that or whether we might have to forget about this Thursday. But yeah, everybody's saying so much work. And I think one or two have said it's a bit of a wing and a prayer because they're hoping that they're going to get paid for this eventually. But most people are actually saying that, the clients are so keen to get this done. They're saying, yeah, this is fine. We guarantee pay or we'll pay up front or whatever it is, but we need to get this done. And, we're somebody described it as holding the hand of a man in quicksand. He's never been so keen to see him before. And this is it. I think it's really going very well for our members.
I think that's right. And because, the clients are paying our members because we are good at what we do and we're specialists and they're the ones that we're turning to. And, hopefully we've been able to help you with these on all the information. I'm certainly getting quite a lot of emails, which are actually now becoming quite specific and quite technical. There is a question in from Deborah. Presumably no other criteria for eligibility has changed. I have a client who is hoping that she can now furlough a member of staff who wasn't on RTI until the end of March. No, I don't think it has changed. The Chancellor was still talking about the 19th of March date. He did not mention anything else. So I think, unfortunately, for those who changed their jobs after the 1st of March and didn't qualify for furlough, then still won't qualify. But hopefully that goes through to the end of July, which is still 2.5 months. But if we can start to go back to work, then maybe starting to take people back to work will help.
Jason Alderson here says, I do payroll for golf courses which are opening on Friday. Some staff are saying they can't come to work because of childcare issues. Can they stay on furlough?
Well, I think they can, because the rules of who can and can't furlough haven't changed. They haven't as yet changed the rules if you have to stay at home for childcare until the schools are open. And I think at the moment, as it stands, I haven't seen anything that changes whether you can and can't be furloughed. I think this is a very gradual return, because something like a golf course, they're also limiting the number of people. I think it's 1 or 2 people play at a time on a round. So it's going to cut down the number of people that are going through the golf course anyway, from what it would have been when they all played fours and whatevers. Yeah. So hopefully that will still work. But at the moment, I haven't seen anything about a change of time.
Pauline says, thank you for confirmation about the 3 weeks. She's been looking everywhere to try and find it. She thought it was right, but that's great. Mary, totally exhausted. Surely we're key workers too. Yes, yeah. Mary, I think you are key workers. Unfortunately, not alongside the health people, but yeah, to your small business clients, you are definitely key workers. So keep up the good work. I was going to say it'll be fine one day, but I'm not quite sure when that day is going to be, because it's getting tougher than anything else.
Yeah. Hannah's come on and said, it sounds as though furlough and payroll calculations are going to get more complex. So far, we haven't charged for raising furlough claims or calculations, but I'm thinking we may have to start to charge even a nominal fee. How do others feel about this, as I don't want to appear to be cashing in during a time of struggle? Gary, that's probably more one for you than me. Whether to start charging as it gets more complex.
Yeah, I mean, I think people have made a judgment as to whether to charge immediately or do this as a freebie because they value their clients. And we've said all along, look, you can't be put upon in this because you're helping them stay afloat. You've got to make sure you stay afloat. When it comes to charging more, because, I mean, you're doing more work. I mean, I think they've got to be obvious. You know, you've got to be straight with them and say, look, this is a lot of work here. Do you want to share some of this with me? Can you do bits of it? I'm sure they'll turn around and say, no, thank you very much. In which case, you'll have to say, okay, I have a lot of clients that are all in the same boat as you. I'll work all the hours to get it done for you. Lay it on thick and tell them exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I also think with that one, Gary, that I think the calculations will be more complex. But then we did that in March when they were half furloughed and part working, and then furloughed, say, from the 19th of March or whenever. So we did those calculations, and they were quite complex in March. So I don't think it's going to be that much more complex, but it's your client that's going to have to decide who they're bringing back and what they're going to pay them and how many hours they're going to work. And then presumably if they send you the details, you've got the furlough calculations, you know what the percentage is based on because you've been doing it since the middle of March. Maybe I'm being too simplistic, but at least you know what the percentages are and what the amount of the furlough amount isn't going to change. That is still based on the February salary or the variable hours or whatever it is. That is not going to change. It's purely the split between them coming back to work full time and what percentage is going to be furloughed.
Because only some people are going to be able to do part-time work, aren't they? I mean, some people will go back full time. Yeah. Some people will still stay away. And I think it's just to encourage businesses to share the work out and bring a group of their employees back one day, then space them a bit and bring another group back. Yeah. It's like you're talking about schools. They're going to have classrooms of 15 children only. Well, there are a lot of factories that can only perhaps fit in half the number of staff normally in order to keep them separate from each other by this 2 meters.
I think I saw something on a program last night where they were talking about car manufacturers where you're doing, you're going along a production line and they're doing this part of it with this group and then they'll put them off and bring this group in to do that part of it. So it's going to be on a rolling basis. So no, it is going to be fairly complex. Nikki's come back and said, does this mean that at the end of the July you cannot be furloughed full time? No, I don't think it does.
Yeah,
but I think you've got to be flexible, Nikki, because the idea is that if there is work for a business, and I think the whole idea of getting Britain back to work is that this will build. Actually putting it into operation is going to be a nightmare. But I think if you still got some work, you could choose then to bring in some of your staff full time and to furlough some full time. And you've got to look at whether people feel safe, whether they can get there, whether they've got childcare. That's going to be the difficult bit, is to decide who's going to work when. I have to say, I actually think that the payroll calculation might be the easiest bit of that, because the business owner that's got to decide how they're going to rebuild their business back up.
Can I just say that we are getting a huge surge of people wanting to come online, and we've come to the end of our number. So some of you are being bounced back or refused access. I do apologise for this. Yeah, it's this announcement today, or actually it's probably Jackie's earrings, but you've gone mad today. But those of you that haven't seen this, I'm talking to you and you're not actually here, I suppose, but they will be able to pick this up later. And it will be on Facebook completely, as now you won't be obviously able to have a live question answered, but if you send in your question to customer services, they'll be passed to the relevant person, and we will always endeavour to do that. So I know at the moment that our Facebook pages are picking up anywhere between 500 and 3,500 people seeing it after the event. So a lot of people are either gluttons and want to go through it again, or actually picking this up for the first time, but out of hours as far as we're concerned. So, yeah, sorry for that. We're trying to kick the system a little bit and see if we can get a bit more capacity from somewhere. But, you know, when thousands of you all turn up at the same time, it does blow the system a little bit, but we're trying.
Jane has come back and said, regarding the self-employment income support scheme, does anyone have clients who have received a letter in the post from HMRC to say that they are able to claim the grant if HMRC don't have the client's email address? Well, that's an interesting one. So we would like to hear about that, because if you are an agent and you do the self-assessment as an agent, then the HMRC will have your agent's email address probably, and not the client's, because everything comes to you. So unless the client or you go on and give the client's email address in the eligibility checker, then no, they won't have, I think they're doing emails first, then text messages, and then letters last, because obviously they want to use snail mail as little as possible. Yeah. So if anyone's interested, that would be interested to know.
1PR, I don't know what that is. That's it means something probably to somebody. 1PR, so it's company name anyway. I've charged a small amount, doing a lot on goodwill. Now got templates, it's a lot easier. My clients have offered to pay a small fee, meet clients halfway. Yeah, again, I think you need to meet clients halfway. The problem comes with this where you undervalue yourself, because once you half charge, getting back full charge becomes even more difficult. So be careful with that, and help out the client however you can. But I think the client has to be realistic, and so do you. If you end up doubling the amount of time you're working for a client but getting half the money, that isn't going to be sustainable in the long term. So you do what you can for them, but I think they've got to realise that you're in business, you've got a family to feed as well. So it's a tough one. Yeah.
Comments from Jason and Jay. Thank you both. Yes, clients received a letter from HMRC about the SAY scheme and checking their eligibility. And Jason's received a letter as well. So yeah, thanks for that. So they obviously are coming through.
Yeah, I think most people seem to be saying that. Oh, this is a big one from Polly. HMRC has started contacting self-employed individuals that they think could be eligible for the self-employment scheme sites, ceased, you put it, based on the information provided on 2018 to 29 tax returns. To help identify who is eligible, HMRC is inviting people to use an online checker, which will quickly confirm eligibility and then provide a specific date on which their claim can be made. They are also running a webinar that you can join to find out more. The webinar provides an overview of self-employment income scheme, including who can apply and how, the amount you claim, and other support available.
Yeah.
Polly, thank you, Polly.
Yeah, thank you, Polly. I think that's what we mentioned last week, but also I think we put out on social media today a list of webinars that you can click onto and book a date. I think Alex has put that up today. I sent it across. So hopefully, yeah, we're just getting as much out as we can. My client
she got a snail mail letter to one of her clients. He's 80 years old. She helped him get registered and all set so you can make a claim. Well done, Nicola.
Yeah, well done.
Do you know
what these octogenarians?
Surprising
what these octogenarians can do online, isn't it?
Do you know what we can, when we can reclaim SSBs?
No, I don't. I asked this of the HMRC this morning and we still don't know. So you're still hanging on there. It's the next one for them to do, I understand. If so, no, we still can't claim it, unfortunately. But as soon as I hear, I will let you know.
Okay. Oh, and another one that's still coming in. Steph Busby. I did the eligibility checker for a client, but when I tried to sign in as an agent to give clients email for the notification, it said I was not able to do that.
Okay, Steph, thank you for that. So it may, oh, surprise about that. But anyway, I will chase that one up for you. I'm speaking to the HMRC lady again this afternoon at 4 o'clock. So I'll try and get an answer, Steph.
Yeah. I have received one of these letters from HMRC, says Susanna Williams, and have done the checker. I had a response saying I would be able to claim between the 14th to 18th of May. It seems to work pretty well for most people.
Yeah, I think it's working. I have seen somebody write on one of the social media that they've worked out that the first couple of numbers on your UTR is what governs the day you can actually make the claim. They open on the 13th. And you're given a date and time from then onwards. You can't claim before then, but you can claim from that moment onwards. I don't think it's done on a first come, first served basis.
Yeah, completely different subject. A couple of days ago, we had somebody coming on, Sue Hayes, who was from Nottingham, and she said on one of our questions here, you know, what is the chance of having a branch in Nottingham? So I thought, great, a willing person. So I contacted Sue today, who said she would love to come to a meeting, but she doesn't want to organise one. So we are going to run a meeting for Nottingham. But it was interesting looking at the events that she came to. She was telling me that she has been to Inspire Tour a couple of years, and I looked it up. And although she lives in Nottingham, she was originally going to go to one in Cardiff, but had to cancel that, but then went to one in Edinburgh. I thought, that's a long way to travel. Then I guess, well, what I do, my husband and I have a couple of days away, and then he sort of sits and watches the television in the hotel room or something while I go to the Inspire Tour. She said it's all worked very well, which I thought was fantastic. But the interesting thing was, the bit that made it even more interesting, was she said, and I was watching yesterday when you had your guest on, Catherine Cowan, who's from up in midway between Glasgow and Edinburgh, and she said, I was really, really nervous because it's the first one I've been to. She is the lady that I sat next to, and we had a lovely chat. What a lovely person she was. So congratulations to Sue, and also obviously to Catherine Cowan. So there we are. Thank you very much. It's not just because of virtual meetings that people travel a long distance, you see.
One PR's come back. Do you know if SACE will be a government gateway application, or will we get another link on the date and time we've been given? No, I don't think you get a link. I think there will be a link for you to go in on that time, and I don't think they're going to actually send you a link. They might do, but I haven't seen. But I would imagine you'll go into it. There will be a check. There will be the application link there somewhere. As soon as we know what it is, we'll get that out to you folks. So.
Philippa, she's done the eligibility checker. That's quite nice, isn't it? And she's on 15th of May from 8 a.m. Well done, Philippa. Seems to be going all right, I think. Actually, I've just realised today is our 30th episode. Can you believe 30 of these episodes? So anyway, well done, everybody in the background who makes this thing work, even if we do fall down occasionally.
Yes, actually, Joanne, has an interesting point here regarding the self-employment grant. As Gary's already commented, most bookkeepers are run ragged at the moment, so income has not yet been impacted, but it is likely to be impacted over the coming months. How can we make a claim if we don't yet know the impact to earnings? We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I think it was Mike from Avon was asking this question a couple of times, and it's a difficult one to answer because you do have to say when you are applying that you're applying for the grant because your income has been affected by this.
Yeah.
And I think it's a moral, ethical decision. I don't know if that's the right term, really. I think you've got to decide. I mean, if you know hand on heart that your income has not been affected because you are so busy, it's unbelievable. And as bookkeepers, I know a lot of people are busier than ever. There are a lot of businesses, obviously, whose income has been badly affected because they haven't been able to work. I don't know what's going to happen if you claim for the grant and then at the end of the year when you do your self-assessment return, because you've got to claim it and show it as income, whether they will come back and ask for a rebate. I don't know. And also the other thing to think about is if you have applied for universal credit because you needed some income, and this is probably for clients as well, if you've applied for universal credit to get you through the first couple of months of this, then that is also going to have an effect when the grant comes through, will be counted as income against your universal credit. So I don't think we're going to know what the effect that is going to have for a little while yet.
I think the thing is that if government feels that you've been doing freebies or very low cost work for people, and that's what's actually affected your income, perhaps they might turn around and say, actually, you should have charged full rate because you've been doing a service. We don't really know how close they're going to look at this, do we? 1PR again. Can someone look into my AML error message, please? I've emailed the screenshot several times. It's been a problem for months and amendments are stacking up. Yeah, I'll have a look at that as soon as we come off. I'm really not sure quite what it is you're referring to, but if you sent an email, then obviously I can look at that. So we'll have a look.
Bev's come back and said, good afternoon. Hi, Bev. Do we know if there is a time limit to making a SACE? Giving a date to apply, but how long after the date do you have? We don't know yet. There is no closing date. It's the same with the furlough claims that you can claim at any time. And we don't yet know how far past the end date you're going to be able to claim. You can claim any time until they close the applications down, basically, but we don't yet know. And HMRC aren't saying how far past the end of the furlough period that they're going to actually, how long that's going to go on for. Deborah's come back and said, read the last statement. Just to let you know, I've had an email from HMRC to say that agents can't apply on behalf of their clients for the self-employment grant. Has anybody else? Yeah, that's a definite. It's got to be the individual that applies on their own government gateway. So if they don't have their own government gateway, they need to apply for one. It is an instant acceptance. It's not like the situation where you're applying to be a tax agent, you've got to wait for the activation codes to come in. They've cancelled that. So you apply for that online. You have to ID yourself. You've got to give, I think, your national insurance number, your UTR, and identify yourself with something like a passport or a driving license. I don't know what happens before anyone comes back if you don't have a passport or a driving license, and there are people who are in that situation. Apparently, someone said that you might be able to get through it with debit cards or credit cards or something. So I don't know, but no, agents definitely can't. That is in the guidance.
Right.
Pauline is... sorry, Pauline,
I just walked away for a second. Deborah, have you answered the one from Deborah? Because she's saying she's had an email to say they can't apply.
I've just done that one. And Pauline says, by the sounds of it, you won't actually be able to say how much you want to claim, i.e. just to top up my shortfall in income. No, at the moment, we don't know. They're telling you how much you can claim. So your maximum claim for the 3 months is £7,500. But I don't know whether you can say I want a bit less than that. I don't know is the answer. And I don't think we'll know until the application process is open. So the first person who's applying on Thursday on the 30th, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Yeah, could you kindly bump an email over to member services for my notification, please, or my email if you happen to have it. And we'd like some instant feedback on how that's going to go. I might, the people that I know personally who are doing this have got dates of the 14th, so I don't know anyone who's applying tomorrow.
One PR again, just saying, I had a client who's now going to sell their business. COVID has been the tipping point. I will lose income because of this, but not at the moment, not going forward. That's a bit of an open-ended one, isn't it? I mean, I think really you have to work that out when it happens. I mean, the client is going to, if they're going to sell the business, they're going to need a good set of figures. They're going to need projections going forward. So there's plenty of work for you to do. And I think you have to bear that in mind. You've got to charge for it. When that drops off, I mean, in the current circumstances, businesses might sell immediately. They might make 3 to 4 months. So, yeah, it's a difficulty. Meanwhile, there's plenty of business out there. You need to start looking for some new ones.
Yeah.
Incredible business at the moment.
But again, it's just whether you want to tick the box to say your income's being affected. That's up to you. And I don't think there's anything we can advise on. And Linda's come back and said, confirmed identity for SAYS using Experian credit records. So there are other ways you can ID yourself. And Claire has asked, the self-employment claim will be a payment of one lump sum for 3 months. But as the PAYE furlough scheme was extended by 1 month to the end of June, no. I think they're going to pay you 3 months. Then I think as the period of the claim extends, and as far as I'm aware, it has not yet been extended past the end of May, so you get the 3 months. As and when that's extended, I would imagine you'll apply monthly for your grant. So it might be that you can decide as you're going on. Oh, Jay says I can apply for from 8 AM tomorrow. Right. So without obviously going into figures or anything, yeah, it'd be interesting.
John Alabaster says he's about to apply. He's going to apply tomorrow, and he will let us know. So thank you, John.
Bless. Thank you very much.
Time will tell, Claire.
Yeah. So just.
Wow, the questions are coming in certainly today. Or
Bev has just come back and said on an SAYS HMRC webinar, they said in the Q&A that you can't specify how much to just top up the income. They would just be paying for 3 months. Yeah, I think they're going to tell you what they're going to pay for 3 months, and then we don't know what's going to happen after that at the moment. We haven't heard. So.
No, I mean, we're all in a bit of limbo at the moment. Not only about work, but about recreation and family life, and can we go and cuddle the grandchildren, or goodness only knows really. And football behind closed doors with no crowds. I think it's going to be a very interesting couple of months. Certainly, interesting being perhaps a wrong word to use, but nonetheless, it's at least good to see that our members are being heavily used by their clients to get them through this. So I think that's that bond of trust which our members certainly have with their clients. I mean, it's now showing up more than ever, and it's just brilliant. So anyway, where are we? Yeah, we're coming to 1:45. We were going to have we thought a very quick, short, sharp meeting here, didn't we, Jackie? But
yeah, well, I'm going to have to go in about 5 minutes because I'm back on with stage. I've got to rehearse.
Yeah, that's fine. So I think that's we've just come up to 38 questions, and I think that's probably it for now, because I think we can wrap this one up, and any more questions coming in we can send on just through the normal manner. Please don't stop just because we are going off air. Don't forget to send it into customer services and we'll pass that on to Jackie or one of our other experts, depending on what sort of question it is. And we'll do whatever we can. Just one slipped in there. OMG, I thought we claimed CGRS grant for March and April and then made a new claim for May and another for June. Is this not right?
Yeah, no, you can claim as and when you want to for the CGRS. I think we were talking about the SAYS grant, not the CGRS, the self-employment. Right. No, you can claim weekly, fortnightly, 3-weekly, monthly. The idea of making the claim, I would suggest, is you do it for a calendar month and you claim for all your pay that you put in that month. and then next month it's going to make it so much easier, but link it into your payroll. Yeah, email us at memberservices@bookkeepers.org.uk. Just come up.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully that's answered. Oh, can I just say, if anybody has emailed in for queries for me, I have a couple which are still outstanding. If anybody's listening, you'll know who you are. I will try and get back to you within the next day or so. Hopefully after I finish the Accountex with Sage tomorrow. So if I've got any outstanding queries, please accept my apologies. I'll get back to you.
Okay, Fuse, says Mary. Thank you very much. So, great, Mary. We're going to finish with you. It's been great to have you all with us again today. We're all finishing a little early today because we've got a few other things on the anvil. We'll let you know what's happening tomorrow. We're at the moment looking at Thursday, as I say, being Advisory Council Day. They do seem to be rather busy at the moment, so whether or not that's going to be quite as large as it was going to be, whether we've got all 18, 19 members, remains to be seen. You might have one or two people, but anyway, it's all about the council and what the council does and how you might in fact like to get involved yourself. So it was great to have you on our 30th episode. We look forward to continuing, and look forward to seeing you soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Thank you all. Bye.